Welcome to SCDM's AI and eSource podcast series. My name is Aruna Vatikola, and I co lead SCDM Implementation Consortium. Consortium's mission is to advance the adoption of eSource in clinical research. FDA defines eSource or electronic source data as data that are initially recorded in electronic format. Examples include direct from device data capture, such as wearables or sensors, direct from patient or clinician, such as electronic clinical outcome assessment, ECOA, or direct from EHR to EDC system. And also wanted to give a quick definition on AI, artificial intelligence, otherwise it's called systems that mimic or exceed human cognitive abilities. And a quick definition on machine learning is subset of AI using algorithms to learn patterns from data without explicit programming. The use of artificial intelligence in its many forms, whether generative AI, agentic AI, machine learning, natural language processing, large language models, or GPT, has the potential to increase eSource adoption through the most effective implementation processes, documentation, training, validation, etc. This podcast series will talk with folks using AI and eSource from multiple clinical research perspectives, sites, sponsors, and technology vendors. Our guest today is Rakesh Maniar, and he's representing a sponsor and also from technology vendor perspective. Welcome, Rakesh. Quick intro on Rakesh Maniar is Rakesh brings over 30 years of leadership in clinical and health data sciences. As co founder and managing partner of PKR Health and Life Sciences, he advises research sites, sponsors, CROs, technology vendors, and private equity firms on strategy, transformations, and best practices in clinical operations and data sciences, including digital health, intelligent automation, GCP, and e-clinical technologies. A recognized industry innovator, Rakesh co founded this very SCDM eSource Implementation Consortium and co led Transliterate eSource initiative. Previously, he served as head of e-clinical technologies at Merck, driving adoption of digital experimentation framework, business intelligence automation, external data acquisition, IRT e-cover services, and advanced solutions such as eSource and decentralized clinical trials. His earlier roles at Novartis include leading clinical data management and global business transformation. Rakesh is frequent speaker at industry forums and author of multiple scientific publications. He holds an MS in biomedical engineering in ACRP certified and completed MIT Sloan's executive program on AI strategy. Welcome, Rakesh.
Thank you, Aruna. Thank you for having me today.
Before we deep dive into our podcast today, a quick disclaimer, a CDM disclaimer. This podcast is provided by the Society for Clinical Data Management eSource Implementation Consortium. It is intended for informational purposes only and does not constitute legal, regulatory, or professional advice. SCDM and the speakers are not responsible for any actions taken on the information provided. Users are advised to consult with appropriate professionals for specific advice tailored to their individual circumstances. Opinions expressed are attributed to the speakers only and not their respective or former employers. So, let's get started.
Yes.
So, Rakesh, as we are doing this podcast, you, you have an amazing breadth of experience, especially on eSource work, and thank you for co founding this eSource consortia. So, to begin with, can you please share how you applied AI in your eSource work, and has your how your eSource approach evolved over time?
Yep. Thank you, Aruna. Excuse me. The I want to kind of break this whole conversation into two parts. One is around content generation using AI, and one is using AI to prosecute data for various insights for various purposes. So that's what all the conversation will be around this two areas. To your question around how this was applied, we had put an AI experimentation framework. I think it's very important as we are learning new part, a new transformation, a change of new technology. It's important to do experimentation before deploying anything into production. As Aruna, we are working in a very regulated environment. So,
Mhm.
top important was as we deployed this AI, we did experimentation where we made sure that the project was approved, the funding was procured, the due diligence was carried out, whether to identify whether you're going to do a partner or you're going to build or buy this capability. Based on that, you carry out the vendor due diligence, do the partnership. We carried out a little bit of proof of concept. Once we get enough confidence and trust in, we do a small pilot, and after pilot do a full due diligence and then deploy this into production for initial pilot studies. So I think this was the common framework, just to make sure the technology is not going to be the bottleneck for start of a trial or for database logs. So this was the approach we had taken. Yeah, and I recommend.
Great, great. So, in that application or experimentation framework, can you please elaborate on the AI tools that you have that you're currently using? Like, for instance, AI, generative AI, agentic AI, Chat GPT, Copilot, or other external solutions that you mentioned, vendor solutions. And also, can you touch upon governance, like or a policy or some anything that your organization has built or used a governance structure?
So I had fortunate enough to kind of touch on all these areas much at a different level of maturity. Um, Chat GPT, Copilot, generative AI, and AI. More recently is agents, as we all are now working on agents to do some automated tasks. So agent AI is more recent phenomena and opportunity to deploy meaningfully where it makes sense. So touched upon all these areas. And the other thing you brought about is governance. I think this is a very important for any organization before kind of deploying all these capabilities in the organization to have a governance structure and framework to make assessment on all the use cases that are being pursued in the organization. We have to also, the governance could help you in the prioritization of the right use cases that we can use for application of this technology or capabilities. We have to make sure also the governance will also serves as a guardrails to make sure there are appropriate compliance are being followed and use cases selected are adhering to relevant technology and corporate policies. This is also to make sure the reputation of the organization is not hurt by deploying a wrong or an incorrect solution is into production. There could be biases, there could be hallucination effect. So we have to be absolutely make sure these are working with high degree of accuracy and quality.
Can I ask you? You used a word hallucinate. I do know the meaning, the English meaning, but in this AI world, can you elaborate on that hallucinate?
So this is more towards AI or generative AI when you kind of you train the model with real world or your own information within your organization. You train the model, and when you ask a question, it's sometimes depending on the temperature settings of the model. sometimes it gives you a wrong answer. It doesn't say I'm giving a wrong one. So we have to make sure. So that's why the model hallucinates, as we call. It gives you wrong answers. It doesn't say I don't know. It will give you a wrong answer and seeks a human verification. That's why we say hallucination. It will give you an answer. So as a human, we need to make sure the answer are acceptable and we can accept it.
Great. Thanks, Rakesh. Completely agree with you on the governance and the guardrails that we need to do, make sure that, not only that AI that we build or the model that we build is not hallucinating or yielding, in other words, are incorrect answers. Um, yeah, moving on, as AI becomes more integrated, now focusing on eSource workflows, have you or your team needed any AI related training? In other words, like upskilling. So just wanted to get what's that experience like to
Yes.
upskill? Hmm?
Yes. So I think it's a very important part. Before we drive a new technology, we need to make sure the human resources are knowledgeable in responsible use of this capability or technology. So we made sure, and I also recommend that a foundational course is offered on AI by different experts, whether this could be internal to the organization or from external. To do lunch and learn session across the organization, including top leadership. This is not a bottoms up, this is a top down approach to get a win win and a good adoption and change management. It's super important. AI is embraced at the highest level in any organization. So we made sure, and I also recommend to have a series of lunch and learns from a foundational courses on different topics of AI, generative AI, and of course now agentic AI, and then deploy the more focused courses just in time. When you deploy this for a particular problem you're trying to solve, then you can have very specific targeted training. But I recommend highly the foundational courses are deployed across the organization meaningfully.
Very well. So basically, augmenting by bringing experts and upskilling from grassroots levels, and also
Correct.
the management to help navigate this change
Correct.
management and adoption. Great.
Correct,
So,
because there is a hype, or no, just sorry, quickly,
hmm?
there is also a fear factor in the organization that it's likely going to replace, and we should see AI as a virtual partner. It's a human and digital workers working side by side. So this is a very important. Through such courses, we educate the people so that they don't get afraid of embracing this capability, and then kind of they partner with open arms such capabilities.
No, great thought there, Rakesh. But I'm assuming building the governance as we touched before, upskilling, augmenting this new technology, or the way that we can say new ways of working, having a digital partner with you, working side by side, and not just a colleague of yours. So I'm sure teams must have faced challenges. So diving into the challenges, can you let us know the top three challenges that you or your team has faced
Yes,
within
there are
eSource,
several.
of course?
Yeah, yes. So this is so Aruna, if you look at it, the top three comes to my mind, and I think these are very important. Is seeking approval on such an investment and sponsorship from senior leadership and funds available to do this capability. There are pricing pressures. We all know that the cost, a lot of investment happens on wet labs, on discovery side of it. So in terms of clinical operations, to gain efficiencies is important. The budget is allocated exclusively for this innovation purpose for the initial 2 to 5 years. And in order to do that, budget approval and senior management support is super important. So that's the first challenge. We need to mitigate those and manage in any organization. The second is um, release of historical data to train the models. You'll need a lot of historical data, and the data might have to leave your firewalls depending on the vendor partner and the technology that you select. So how do we release this data keeping all the controls in place? So data access was one of the another challenge which had to go through a lot of approvals, and it is true for an even other clients that I'm talking to. They're facing the same things. So I work with them to make a business case to get the relevant approvals from their organization to release the data. And the third one is, these projects can run from 6 months to 1 year, 2 years, and you need really a dedicated ring fence resources from business, the domain expert, and from IT. So ring fencing them for the project is super important. I know clinical studies are equally important, but for this to be successful, the resources need to be really dedicated for the duration of the project. And then after that, for change management and training other associates in the organization. So this is kind of three things that comes to my mind as a priority any organization should focus on. Yes.
Thank you. You mentioned business and IT experts to help, but can you elaborate, the what does business expert and IT expert have a role, maybe from, just to learn a bit more on the challenges and how the experts from these two domains can come together to help solve the problem.
Yes. So good quite a really quick example on data review. So I can give an example of data review. You need really to train the model on how humans are thinking and transferring this knowledge to. You'll need an expert data managers to train a model, let's say for a data query use case or audit trial review use case. In that, these are the senior people you need from in your organization who are subject matter experts to train the model. Once you train the model to high degree of accuracy, the model will continue to perform. So technically you're copying the signature of an expert into the model, and then model will continue to work as long as it's relevant to the training data sets. The model will perform. So likewise, when you have an IT data scientist or data engineer working, or AI ML programmer working on your solution, you want to make sure these people are dedicated for your projects and they're not distributed across multiple projects, or they are moved to another projects based on their skill set. Then what happens is the project suffers, the duration is extended, and then you'll not see tangible benefit quickly. So this is the reason I highly recommend that resources are ring fenced for the duration of the project.
Great. Great, thank you. Can you please share two or more examples on or case studies that you where AI has applied in an eSource project, and any key challenges, and maybe a little bit more if you can tell how it ultimately worked well?
Yeah. So if you look at eSource, one is from the collections to target standard. The collection could be in EHR, for example. It is at healthcare standards or FHIR, for example, fast healthcare interoperability resources. And in our side of submissions are more of CDISC standards, target standards, or it could be company specific targets, and you need to do the mapping. So there's a huge opportunity now to use AI to do mappings, for mapping exercise, to do the specs, the mapping specs, but also to do configuration for such a mapping. And this could be automated also. So once, let's say, lab has been configured and mapped and went through quality control, you can run this mapping for multiple studies within the same hospital network, right? For lab, for example, unless things change, it's going to work. So that's one example of mapping exercises and automatic specification generation. The other thing is about building of application. It could be ECOVA targets, or it could be EHR to EDC, or any of the digital health technologies. You can build and configure application using AI, and then you can use also agentic AI to automate things once you have learned, and it can consistently we can do the task. Then you can use agents to kind of run this on the go when submitted. And the third example I can give you is very important, is around audit trail review and data review and cleaning. And I think this is not just rule based. I'm talking more about probabilistic and pattern recognition, where a data manager is using a series of reports to prosecute the data. That thinking can be captured in a model and can be used. So these are kind of very high level 2 to 3 examples that I can share, where this technology as relevant to AI, but as relevant to eSource, but this is transferable to other method eSource modalities as well. And you asked for key challenges also, and
Yeah.
one thing is quality by design. I think we are important. I mentioned is very important, quality by design, and this when you're working with multiple stakeholders for a solution. Sites are also bringing in their vendor partners, sponsors are built, and CROs are building the vendor partners. So there are 3 to 4 players playing for in a solution, from collection to kind of data acquisition and analysis. So in this case, quality by design is important. There could be, there are opportunities for quality breakdown, so we have to make sure end to end quality. So by embracing quality by design at the onset, it's super important, and to make sure this doesn't break in its journey. The second is around testing. Sometimes solutions are deployed prematurely without testing, and in any step of the data flows journey. So we have to identify to make sure the testing is occurring, and pilots are carried out. Very important. Before deploying anything, pilots are carried out, and that is why you can get more confidence with your customers and stakeholders. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. You kind of navigated to my next question. I was just about to ask, what are some risks that you have identified while using AI and eSource in the above examples? And by the way, that's a great thought, that what you explained, right from quality by design, so that you spend enough time on testing and piloting before we release it to production. Great thought. But we want to ask what kind of risks that you have identified
Yes.
while testing.
So,
Yeah.
so one is I already covered previously about hallucination effect, right? So that's one thing. Absolutely, we want it. It's a risk. It's a risk for these technologies. So we need to make sure model is not hallucinating, and we're mitigating such things by human in the loop. We work in GXP environment, so it's absolutely making sure that human in the loop is always there till we get a high degree of confidence. And we have to use risk-based approaches. Based on risks, you can see how much you can make it autonomous versus human in the loop. I foresee on a GXP space, we will remain on human in the loop for a very long time, and that is the right thing to do. We are dealing with human beings, right? So, and we have to make sure on the safety and efficacy and the rights of the patients are adhered to always as expected by IC and GCP. The second thing is model performance. There could be model drift and data drift, so we have to make sure model is performing once it's deployed in production. For example, we monitor what we call as ML operations, or we have to make sure in an ops setting model performance is monitored with human in the loop, so that the model is still relevant for the training data that was used to train the model for the use case for which, or the context for which it was deployed.
Great. You mentioned model drifting. So can you elaborate on that? Maybe as because I heard that risk a lot, and I just wanted to make sure that our audience are also aware of this model drifting.
Yeah. So just one example. Let's say the model was trained, let's say, on a lab data set for lab extraction, mapping, and sending it to sponsors or CR on target data, right? You have trained on particular EHR outputs from an institution, uh, and you have tested the model is performing high degree of accuracy. Now you have to make sure the sites have not changed or there are no new information coming into this, because model can the model will not behave, right? So model will drift because the new information that are coming in, the model has not been trained on. So we have to make sure that the context which and the parameters on what the model was trained on are still relevant for the use case or the context. So I think that's very important.
Great, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
At what stage of eSource do you recommend integrating AI? Examples, planning, execution, data review or analysis phase?
Interesting. I mean, given opportunity and if you have money and budget, I'm sure you can put in all the three areas.
Great.
But
Yeah.
we have to, right, but we have to make it more meaningful and make sure these use cases are very high value, high impact, where we deploy these capabilities or solutions. Some of the examples comes to my mind is, as I covered before, is mapping specs. You can also use it for configuration, setting up of your databases or applications to collect and also to stage the data or store the data, your source and target models configurations, and also data review including audit trial, as I mentioned. We have to also make sure that manual query, I think it's a huge opportunity. Even when you do a database log, sometimes unlocks are happening in the industry where some of the data anomalies are not detected. So this may be another opportunity using AI to use to its potential to identify some patterns that humans through our reports or rule-based reports we were not able to detect. So this is an opportunity around manual query, more around probabilistic use cases, not deterministic. I think I would leave deterministic rule-based within your applications like EDC are much better served. They can be done. And yeah, this I would go with a couple of the examples that I shared here. Of course, there
Great.
are
So
many
basically,
mapping. Yeah, yeah. Sorry, go
mhm.
ahead.
So basically, any stage, as long as you said you had the budget for, right? All
Right.
stages of
Yeah,
clinical operations, we can
yeah,
apply AI.
absolutely,
Um,
absolutely.
and great point that, for rule-based queries, we can have reports, but for manual queries, AI is more relevant.
Yeah, yes.
Um, can you share if you have any experience in data applying AI in data cleaning or quality assurance processes?
Yes, in terms of quality, there's a huge opportunity. This is only one of the use cases. There are others, but I think in terms of data review and validation, where EHR is one of the sources, there are other sources of data. So this is applicable across your data journey or various domains. What we have seen, at least I have seen, success is around common data sets or common safety modules such as labs, adverse events, conmeds, medical history. We have more experience. There are more structured data availability. And the models can be trained as you're creating the ground truth for this. We have the experience of data managers who can help us to train these models. So creation of ground truth, for supervised learning for that matter. So common safety domains are huge opportunity. Whereas for efficacy domains like tumor resist domains, what I call them as efficacy domains, you need to make more investment. It's achievable. I have seen good out performance outputs of the models, and I think it's a great opportunity. So applying AI for data review and cleaning, or also for that matter medical monitoring or medical review, it's a huge opportunity, right? So all these are kind of transferable from a data manager to a clinician now training the models. The way they look the data for medical review or for medical monitoring, this is an opportunity which is easily transferable.
Great. Looking ahead, and again, this is the last question. We just wanted to understand
Yeah.
in future, what changes do you foresee in scaling AI across eSource? Whether it's in technology, governance, or workforce readiness.
Yeah. So, in my opinion, all the three pillars that you mentioned are important for the success of the capabilities deployment in relevant to AI. I'm talking very important for AI. So, as you make investments in technology, whether you're building or buying in any organization, upskilling of people are important because you need people from business functions to help make decisions in partnership with IT. So they need to be equally knowledgeable. And if I have a seat on the table, I want to make sure I understand the foundational part of it. Of course, I rely on the IT partners, but it's very important. So I think while we'll do technology build on investments, upskilling people at the right time is important. And then in parallel, I would also invest on governance framework. So when you're ready to identify solutions, governance should be in place so they can help any organization prioritize and also act and make sure appropriate guardrails are there in the use case that a project team is thinking to use AI, right? So it's very important, Aruna, that all these three pillars. So to me, technology and people upskilling, I would do it in parallel, governance ready before a project is selected, right?
Great.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for your insightful discussion and patience that you have answered each question that we had.
Welcome.
Very excited for the great things that you're doing, and all the best for all the great things that you're embarking in near future.
Great.
I truly learned a lot today, and great use cases. I'm sure our audience will appreciate the use case examples that you shared, risks, and other information. New words every day that are coming in. I learned a lot, like hallucinating, model drifting, etc. So, thank you.
No, I really enjoyed great questions, great information, and I am very hopeful that audience will enjoy listening to this podcast. So, but looking forward to it. Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Rakesh.
Aruna. Yeah. Bye.
Bye bye.